Everybody, welcome back to another phenomenal night here for Faceit League. It has been, again, I would say an action-filled season, a very delayed season for certain contexts out there, but a couple of teams that have definitely had their noses to the grindstone. Vivacity taking on Wink here today. And to be fair, two expert teams that have come up after going through the LCQ, both of them have been doing really well for themselves, especially Vivacity right now. One of the only few teams remaining who have lost 1 or 0 games. That's amazing this far into the season.
Yeah, and you have to remember their one loss came to Kintsugi just before their initial implosion. However, Kintsugi back here now. So even if that game was probably replayed today, you might say the same outcome would have came right there. But still, you have to give Vivacity a lot of credit. 5-1 right now on the season. You don't see that many teams doing that very often, especially teams that came up from that expert tier. Hunter, we covered Vivacity already a couple times here this season. And, you know, it was always like this really good story saying, oh, we're seeing this expert team really find their stride here early on, but eventually it might fall apart. But right now, 5-1, they are laying the groundwork early on that, yeah, they might be coming up from the expert tier, but they are a team that everyone is going to need to know about. Wink, on the other hand, got off to a little bit of a struggle to start the season, but still, there's the players on this team are some incredible players. I think they have the right pieces. They just haven't been able to put together just yet, but this team can turn around. I think at any point this season, why not start it against another team that came up from the expert tier in Vivacity?
Yeah, they've had some of those really difficult matchups earlier on. A Explodiona team that I think has really found its stride. Elemental Normal that is going through a really good stride in their own right, taking it to some of the best teams in the tier so far. And this is one of those games that, again, you go into it, you feel good about either one, and mainly because, as you brought up, both of these rosters have amazing players on them. I think they've put up good results against good teams. I think both of them have their own ways of going about this battle. But for Vacity, this is to take that extra step further to not just saying, oh, we want to make sure we make it back into Masters next season. We want to make sure we get into playoffs this season and have a fighting chance. And right now, being 5-1 in the current setting, that's a pretty good way to get yourself in that conversation.
Yeah, I would just say based off past seasons, 5 wins, you're safe to be in Masters next season no matter what. But like you said, they are now past that, hey, we're going to be staying. Now they're looking forward to saying, hey, let's be a playoff team here. Wink. Only 2 wins, so they still have a little bit to go before I think they're out of that danger zone of being put in that maybe for a relegated spot here again. But already getting into our series here tonight, we know our first map, not going to be a surprise. It's Li Zhang Tower. And it's Vivacity banning the Farah out here first, Hunter. A very, very interesting ban. But when you really look at it a little bit more, me and you talked about it a little bit on Wednesday. Farah gets a decent amount of value and a decent amount of play on Li Zhang in particular, even a little bit on Control Center, which might be the most difficult map for Farah to really excel on. But we have seen some teams really make the Farah look like the scariest DPS hero sometimes on this map.
I think over the course of the last week or so, it's become one of the more banned DPS. And to be fair, it still finds an incredible amount of value. It gets played in OWCS. We saw it earlier today, for that matter, on Lijiang Tower, nonetheless. So there's every reason to believe the FAR can get value on a map like this because she 100% can find value. Now, what does that open the door up to, or what does that shut the door on? Obviously, we'll find a little bit more as we get ready for this first map, as we wait for that second ban to be shown before our very eyes, as we'll see if these teams make any swaps, because it is noting we have a full set of 8 for both of these squads, so substitutions could definitely be in the cards.
Yeah, and coming out of the gate right now, we can already kind of tell one thing with Vivacity. Makoto, who me and you have been seeing a lot, not going to be starting out here for Vivacity. So they might not be available at the moment, or maybe because they're a far player potentially, they might just be pulling them out of this map. However, it does look like it's going to be, I believe, Fern coming in for them. I could be dead wrong about that, but I believe it is Fern that will be coming in for them. That's going to be really interesting because, like I said, Makoto's been, I think, maybe one of the standouts. Every time when we've been able to look at Vivacity, they are a player that we call their name of a lot here for them. On the other side, no real big shocks just yet for them, but still, you have a minute and a half here to finalize those rosters before we get going here.
Yeah, 100%. We'll see. Again, they give that solid 3 minutes. They're halfway through it now to be able to decide those rosters away. I mean, we talk about how many of these players on here have honestly done a phenomenal job for the times we've seen them previously, but also to their previous experience over in the expert tier to get through and honestly beat some good teams to be able to get here in the first place. You may have recognized Wink in those previous LCQs by the name Who is Not Okado instead, and again, put on a really good performance to go ahead and take that one away. But Vivacity is one of those teams that came through. While we know some of these players didn't know much about the full squad as is, but I think they've already made a really good impression. They've come in here, again, losing that one game to Kensuke, but already they have some wins against some good teams. They beat that Element Normal team. They beat that Artemis team, and I think that Artemis win is what made me really believe, like, hey, this team is a very serious contender, because Artemis really is that, I'll say it, middle-of-the-line team where that is where you see the players that go through them. Those are players that are, or teams, I should say, that can break through that top 8.
Yeah, absolutely. But still, they have a couple really tough games coming up here. I mean, they still haven't played teams that are sitting above them right now in the standings, like Dilducks, like the Fallen, which has been a big surprise to me, considering there's still other great teams out the Meow Academy. But we've seen the Fallen take down some of those teams I've already mentioned here in 3-0 fashion as well. But looks like it's actually be the Mauga that's going to be the second band coming out here from Wink. So we've been also seeing the Mauga pop up here as of late, Hunter, and that's been one thing to really kind of focus in on, because you've seen it both in EMEA today and both in NA as well. Varying levels of success with them here, but Mauga started to become, I feel like, essentially not necessarily meta, they're fringe again. You definitely do see teams play them and play them really well, but you also see teams play them and, well, struggle.
It definitely has to some extent, extremely so. Again, a character we saw earlier today being played in OWCS. Now, had varying results, obviously, but it's still a really strong character that I think has a lot of inherent value due to some characters maybe not being as strong. You think of D.Va as an example, while still strong, is not the world breaker that she previous was, still very efficient, but D.Va is really one of those characters that is really efficient at shutting down the Mauga, and it is really as simple as saying, okay, we want to run Mauga this map, we ban the D.Va, what are you going to do about it? And the answer sometimes is, we don't know, but you're not have to worry about that for map 1 as we're getting ready to set things up in Lijiang Tower. We're going to start things over here on Night Market.
Night Market, but it's not night. It is daytime. Very much daytime. I'm going to be honest, this is one of the maps I don't like the fact that we have a daytime version of it. But like I said, no big shocks. I believe it is Fern coming in here. Maybe it's Marcos coming in here for Makoto on the side of Vivacity, who, again, like I said, that's been someone who's been very consistent for them this entire season. Every time we've seen him, very fun to see him. But coming out of the gate, remember, no Mauga. You immediately see Wink teasing us with the Wrecking Ball. That's what Eevee's showing us. On the other side, Axe showing us this Zarya, but you don't see the traditional kind of, at least at the moment, the Vendetta with them. You see the previous flavor of the month when it came to those Zarya comps, the Reaper coming out for Marcus, which, again, a hero that we've seen in OWCS as recently as I believe today. I had it on while I was at work. I didn't see all of it, but we definitely know that Linux team, Lunex team likes to play the Reaper here. But coming out of the gate, it's just going to be just teams taking space, but already you just start to see Vivacity rotate towards backside of map, and this is going to be something where Eevee could really find a lot of value here, just being able to bowl through people.
Yeah, that's what you want at the end of the day, because Wrecking Ball is definitely one of those characters that causes chaos. In fact, I think it might be easily in that top 3 of chaos-causing characters, and already in the backline, gonna find a really good slam. It's gonna force cooldowns, it's gonna force everybody to rotate around. You see boobs going around every which way, and it's taking away so much attention ultimately, but they haven't managed to find any actual picks yet, unfortunately, so it's really a thing of trying to find these results. They're getting to them to some degree, as you will see Vivacity be able to take over the point first. The question is, will it stay this way? And for Axe, it's all about trying to stay up for as long as humanly possible for us. Eevee, who will eventually fall over, that should solidify them the point for now, as Mickman hanging around gets one, but it shouldn't be enough.
Never going to be able to find Saint here, but you could still really see a swap or flip come out here, but no, Fern coming back into the fight, going to be able to find Nanakado, and I got to give Morlock a lot of credit. I don't know if you saw it there, but they got actually booped off by Eevee, but they were able to barely keep themselves alive. It took them a little bit to come get wall ride themselves back up, but they did that, immediately came back in and died, but still, give them credit for at least being able to survive that initial boop here, but still, you talked about it, the chaos comp. That's why I always talk about here with these Wrecking Ball kind of playstyles, and Doomfist on the other side with it as well. You already see them going straight in, but you need a follow up there. You need to have someone like Mickman, someone like Nanakato, be there to really clean up a lot of the damage that Wrecking Ball is going to be able to provide here.
Yep. Pulse Bomb already good for Mickman as well. Just have to be careful of her having that cleanse, as well as the bubble from Axe as well. There's a lot of things that really can stop this from getting inherent value, but one thing that definitely stops you is the Pulse Bomb being thrown in like their Steph Curry. Does not hit, though. And without the Kiriko on display, there's not a whole lot that you can do here, especially as Eevee again gets taken out, and that's going to cause another reset to come through.
Trying to throw the Pulse Bomb like their Steph Curry ends up being freaking Sanjay Diop out there, and no one will get that reference because that man airballed free throws constantly. But right now, coming into it, 75% counting, you could be looking at final fight. Look at the ultimates online here for Vivacity. You gotta have all 5 ready to go. That Pulse Bomb from Mickman not finding anyone does kind of hurt them here because they're only gonna have the minefields here very early on. It's gonna be difficult for them to get anything going here, especially as Vivacity is gonna be able to throw ultimate after ultimate at the other side before anything can really come up for them.
Yep, Mines on the point, gonna cause plenty of chaos as Nanakato is gonna find some value. Big move come through. Once more, Marcus is gonna be able to survive, but it's not going to matter as 99% on the board. No one gonna survive that fight, but your singular bright side, while you do hand over the point, you only end up using the Tectonic Shock for that one.
I love being proven wrong almost immediately right there. Great play, honestly, by Wink. Eevee through the minefields perfectly on point. You got the early pick there from Novelia onto Fern from the other side, but then you just got that chaos factor from that Wrecking Ball out there. Eevee was able to bowl a couple people off the map. Really worked out well for him, but you're still walking into 4 ultimates on the other side here as you already see him go straight towards point.
Yep, Bolo being thrown in as well. A lot coming through. 3 get hit with that big stun as well from the Tidal Blast, and now you have to capitalize on it because now you cause the point to flip over. Plenty of action going on in the backline. Grav comes out, gets a whopping 0 burger, unfortunately, as Fern barely manages to TP out in time, and now the setup for a secondary touch right there, and getting rid of Fern definitely helped your cases in that fight, as eventually they'll be cleared out once more, but while it is a fight win for there, because they let that flip go through, they lose out on, what, 20% easily.
Easily 20%, but granted, you just got rid of every ultimate from the other side. Yeah, you still know that Death Blossom's there for Marcos, but look at what you have. You have another minefield. Eevee built that out very quickly. Another Kitsune Rush, another Pulse Bomb. You're in a really great spot right now if you're Wink, but you just need to keep on doing what you've been doing. Applying pressure early on, force a little bit of a split here from Vivacity early here, because that's what's been leading them to these good fight wins. The split coming out from Vivacity. They haven't been able to find much with it here.
Yep, big stun over onto Axe, who gets the cleanse in time, so we'll be able to rotate with the rest of the team over towards the point. You see immediately the action of Eevee going through, trying to cause disruption, doing a really good job of that. Has to eventually use the mines just to separate as Marcos goes into the mines, clears them out, but it's not going to matter a whole lot, and poor Axe is going on a trip. See you next fall, but Eevee not too far behind. They'll be gone as well, as they will be able to still clutch this up.
I mean, if you're going to fall off of the map at any of the points here on Lijiang Tower, this is at least the closest one to the ground. But still, this has gone from really good here for Vivacity to absolutely terrible. And exactly everything I was talking about here for Wink, they need to have a little bit more synergy with that Wrecking Ball and the pile drive. You're starting to find that now. Nanakato and Mickman are really following up Eevee here, and you have just not seen a good response here from Vivacity. Bullet shot out, gonna find nothing but the statue here, but still, you got that out early on if you're Vivacity. You need to find a pick, and that's the pick you're looking for.
Yeah, just had to throw it out. Didn't want to die with it still sitting in the chamber, but still both tanks hanging around. Axe suffering a little bit now, as we see, as eventually going to get DMAC, trying to last for as long as possible, but unfortunately, Novelia is hitting shot after shot. Even there to help clear things out, and they are going to clutch this thing back from the 99 to nothing, and are going to make this their own. Just a little bit more stall from Marcos, but it's just not going to be enough. And if there's a way to clutch it up, that is definitely it right there.
99% to 0 comeback here for Wink. Like I said, this team has the pieces. They just haven't been able to put it together yet. But this could have been that. This could be that series that they're able to start putting it all together, and we see this team come back. Because, like I said, this is a really good team. Saint X, Eevee, Mickman, Nanakato, and Novelia. The newest one that we have the least knowledge of. They are playing great right now. On the other side, Vivacity has shown us so much throughout this season. That was a little bit of a misplay from them multiple times. You talk about the grab not finding anyone. Marcos using the Death Blossom just to clear out mines in a fight that was already lost for them right there. It became very difficult for them to really find any value there. I'm surprised we're still actually seeing the Reaper because it struggled immensely last point. Because, I mean, only 4 elims, the second lowest on their team outside of 1 support.
Yeah, it's not the best display earlier on, but I think this plays a little bit more into the style that you want. You know, having something like the D.Va walking into the Wrecking Ball, and hey, getting rid of 2 out the gate, it's a brilliant way to put yourself in a good position. So the real effort here is going to be trying to get out alive with literally anybody, but shall not be the case. It will be the full wipe coming through for Vivacity in this first affair.
And you needed that. You need this kind of response here from Vivacity just to get going. If you got off to a very sluggish start, I was going to really start being concerned. Were they going to be able to come back? Will we see more desperation swaps come out for them here? Everything's working for them right now, but look at Saint X going over to the Mizuki here instead. Hey, happy birthday to that hero right now, but you're looking for a little bit more right now as Eevee going to be able to almost backcap it here.
Yeah, really close to doing so, and Saint actually gets Marcos with a headshot, so now they have a chance to continue this progress going, and progress is quickly becoming victory right now. Temper, though, is trying to make it a little more difficult to have to deal with right now. A little bit more stall over on the point. Axe eventually going to have to get off, gets pulled down as well, so has to kind of run for it and grab the Mega Health Pack as well. But with this being the case, they're able to restabilize. Bodies eventually have to throw the Rihanna and Eevee. As much health does exist there, you still have to mind yourself. It's difficult, especially when you have the Mizuki. While lots of good utility, not a lot of heals. That's only 50%. It'll flip back.
Not a lot of heals, but again, you said the utility and decent amount of heals when you get all the way charged up there with their ability. But you already look at the ultimates here. Pulse Bomb and Bomb online right now for Vivacity. They're in a good spot. Just be able to stall out a little bit. Nothing ready for the other side just yet, as you're starting to see Eevee just kind of spin the win here on the point. And it looks like they're, again, going to go for a little bit of a back cap here. I think that's something that Vivacity is completely fine with.
Yeah, and Axe, the question is, do I bomb, do I not? I think the answer is realistically going to be a no right here, as it's going to be a little stall on the point, but doesn't die on the point, so it's going to be a staggering instead, and that is going to be rough.
Axe is trying to run down Saint right now, not going to be able to do that. Eventually, Saint will chain them to death there, essentially. But still, 3 ultimates online for them right now, but you look over at the other side, they've now rotated to a really good spot with their ultimates. Going to have 4 online here. Navilia should not be that far away from their own Kitsune Rush here. So what's the play here for Vivacity as they come back? You can see a little bit of a split play come out here as Temper and it looks like Morlock going through White Room, while on the other side you have Axe and the rest of them, but Eevee finds them out and Temper going to fall as well. This is already falling apart here.
Yeah, and yeah, that's going to be the full wipe. You see Marcos just get pulled in, and then it's set up there for Eevee to be able to bash him down. So again, in their favor, 5, it's going to be a 9 ultimate fight coming up. Oh my god.
Yeah, a full house versus a 2-pair on the other side here. Full house normally comes out on top when you're talking about poker, but that 2-pair could be very strong here, but you need to find something here early on. Again, the fact you did not get on ultimate out last time was a big problem there for Vivacity.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Kekai Sanctuary is not going to get a lot from Sane here. Kitsune Rush is going to be thrown back, and unfortunately, it's not going to get a whole lot. Axe is going to have a nice little Thanksgiving dinner there, eating the Pulse Bomb. It's just going to be a little bit more stall coming through from the ball, hoping to get it over to the 80% marker. Will be able to do so at the expense of the life as well, but 82%, you lose 4 in a losing effort.
Let me go back to my poker knowledge right here as someone who does not know how to play poker. You ever have a high card beat a full house? Because that's exactly what happened right there. The only thing that was used for Vivacity was the Kitsune Rush. You got 4 ultimates out from the other side in a losing fight. Bomb, though, has to be used here by Axe. Beat already out for Morlock.
Yeah, that's a lot being used to kind of force everybody back. You see the back cap coming through, and is it going to happen? Free back cap comes through, and now, no matter what, forces everybody back. Quick regroup. Mickman is still over on the point. He's going to get out alive, and now you guys back to stall over on the point. 90+%. You still have a Death Blossom sitting by, ready to go, but you see right now, it's send the back, and it's going to get rid of 2, making 3 on top of it. They'll flip it back at 98%, and now it all comes down to this.
But right now, if you're Wink, you love that fight right there. Yeah, you lost it, but you know you got rid of the last 2 ultimates that Vivacity had, that Pulse Bomb and that Death Blossom. Look, Eevee has Minefield. You could throw it on point to buy you some time. You've been trying to back up a lot here, as you already see Eevee coming right in. Mine's on point. Marcos might have a struggle here to get out, but they're going to use that Wraith form to be able to escape, but you might give up the point here just for a moment.
Hey, you just might, and now not really close to anything else right now. Fern and Morlock really the closest at this point. Axe with a critical blow to get rid of Saints, though. You are running out of heals as you guys just trying to survive over on the point, but survival, unfortunately, is not guaranteed. That'll cut out the last one over on the point. May get one more touch. Will not be able to, though, as we will head over to Gardens to settle this one.
And really good plays there by both teams. Vivacity, though, they just had the better plays there. Honestly, I mean, it really all fell apart there when we talked about 5 ultimates going to 1 fight for 5 ultimates for Wink, going to 4 ultimates there for Vivacity. Vivacity only used a Kitsune Rush, and you got rid of 4 ultimates from the other side, and didn't even find a single pick with any of them. That was the beginning of the downfall there. However, because they won that first point, you are at least going to be forcing us here to Gardens, and you already see some swaps coming back out here now for Wink. Saint going back over to the Wu Yang we saw on point 1, which worked really, really well for them. Mickman on the sim, only gonna probably be for TP out, and then going back over to that Tracer they've been doing a really good job on so far. No swaps here for Vivacity, and I'm kind of surprised with that. I would really have expected Axe to go back over to the Zarya here, but I think they found something with this D.Va, and they really want to stick with it. Same thing for Marcos on this Reaper, who again found 3 with that Death Blossom last point, but definitely was starting to find a little bit more value here.
Yeah, you see Eevee struggling right now. Is going to try to run. Is going to get heals at the very last second. Runs right into the Reaper, though. Not exactly the best equation, I would say. But Marcos is going to try to get out alive. Should have no trouble being able to do so. Big spins coming through. But the spin is not to win, as it looks like they're going to hand over this first fight. And the first cap at that.
Yeah, and Hunter, remember I said after the first point, Marcos only had 4 elims? Well, coming into the final point, they have 22 and the most damage in the lobby. They really started to make this Reaper work here very, very well, and they're focusing in a lot on Eevee, which granted, you don't normally want your DPS just shooting at the tank, but Reaper shooting at the Wrecking Ball, you're perfectly fine with that one any day of the week.
You certainly are right there, and getting rid of the carry that early, it's a great way to set up your success. You have to back up a little bit. Axe has to kind of mine the space a little bit, but it looks like you're going to get back just as quickly. But Mickman down as well. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, this is exactly what you want at the end of the day, right? Find pick after pick as Temper nails the pulse bomb on top of it.
Find pick after pick, getting good value out of your ultimates here, being able to build to a pulse bomb very quickly here. You still see Saint kind of lagging behind with their ultimate. Morlock, though, same thing, and Axe kind of struggled here because the DPS lines for both these teams have been doing a really good job. Mickman and Nanaka, though, they're going to have their pulse bomb and Bola here ready to go pretty early on. You need to be able to at least find one with those here. As Eevee trying to build some space, but still, you see Nanaka and Saint still on the other side of the bridge.
Yeah, still so. Again, pulse bomb ready to go here from Mickman. Does not find any value here as you're building up some other things. That Bolo shot back online. Nanakano wasn't able to nail it out last time due to the scenarios at hand of just kind of being at a point where it needs to be used. And it's going to be another Thanksgiving dinner there for Axe. Eats another one. Mine's on the point. Is going to cause a little bit of separation. You take a trade, but I don't know if I want to lose my ball over a Tracer. It doesn't really go your way. And now at 75%, they're going to have to reset one more time.
Ooh, and Saint uses the Tidal Blast to keep themselves alive here. They try to get rid of Marcos, but I honestly think if they don't use that E ability, they would have been able to find them beat now coming out from Morlock, and Saint will fall. There has to be a quick regroup here now for Wink.
Yeah, unfortunately so, and it's a question of how do you even get a touch here. It's going to have to be EVI. You're going to have to go on that, but you're already in there a bit aggressively. You lose out on your other stall tool, so now overtime hasn't activated, by the way. Need one more retouch. Now it does come through, and you see, they just assassinate people in the backline. You get rid of one, so you make your job slightly easier, but easy is not even the word I would use here. This is still incredibly difficult to make any level of stall. But honestly, it's a really good job with the ball to kind of keep in here. Keep the action rocking and rolling. Yubba get the mega health pack. Mickman touches for half a second and gets taken out once more. Unfortunately, good of a stall as it is, Dex, it will not matter as we will see this first map be taken away from Vivacity.
And Vivacity, I mean, you have to talk about how this entire map went. 99-0 on the first point. Give up a close fight there to Wink, and then we're never able to get the point back. Back and forth there on Control Center, and then just straight dominance here on our final point of this map. And I talked about coming into our third and final point, the fact that Axe stayed with that D.Va. I thought we would potentially see the Zarya come back out, but the D.Va, like I said, they really found something on it. Didn't die at all. And another player, Marcos, someone who very much struggled that first point, started to get their rhythm going there, ended the map with the most elims and the most damage by almost over 3,000 damage compared to anyone else in the lobby.
Yeah, that was absolutely phenomenal right there. And it's a really good callback considering how that first round went. Because while it was really back and forth, you saw Wink able to pull up and throw everything they really have to the test right there. But it was a hard shutdown on that final one for Vivacity. As we have a chuckle man going on in the VC right now. What's so funny there, my friend?
Well, it's Wink. They're going really fast here. Rialto going to be our next map. Say goodbye to the D.Va. She's not allowed. Not at
Mhm.
all. Ban that one out right away. I think that's a perfect ban here, just to really be able to even up the series. If this backfires on you, it's going to be a problem because it definitely seems like you want to make sure that Axe does not have access to this diva here anymore. You want to at least try to get it 1-1 heading to map 3. If you go into it down 2-0, it's going to be very, very difficult to figure out where you're going to take us, where that diva really struggles to find any value. Because, like you talked about here a little bit, Hunter, diva seems to be, at least right now, the most consensus meta tank in the game. Yeah, we saw a lot of Zarya today. We saw a lot of other tanks be played in OWCS, but everyone still kind of says diva is the one that everyone is still kind of defaulting to at the moment. So, especially with how Axe played that first map, it has to be something that Wink is either going to have to figure out how to shut down or figure out how to just minimize throughout the rest of the series.
Yeah, they'll have to find a way, certainly. We'll see if there's any swaps coming through as well, as once again, full teams for both of these sides right here. We'll see what they would be able to pull out. I know previously I've seen at least Makoto in before, as we kind of seen before. I'm not fully sure on Wink. I know we have seen Wink before, but I could not tell you off the top of my head if they swap out very frequently or not. I'm sure we're going to find out as the series continues on, but we'll see what comes to form as. Go ahead. You have a thought. Good
I was gonna say, I think we've seen Smarties once.
Mm.
Outside that, I feel like we've only seen the starting five for Wink, but still, this is a very talented roster in its own right. Everyone can come in, fill the role they need to do very well, but we've really mostly seen this starting five here. And like I said, we definitely saw there that first point. I posed the question, they have the pieces they need to put together. They look like they started to put it together there, but once Vivacity figured out how to shut them down, you started to see the pieces maybe not work or fit as well as you thought they were, but still a lot of series to go here for them to be able to bounce back. And this is a team, especially how map point 1, point 2, and a little bit of point 3 saw they are able to bounce back. And hey, I actually like this band very much as well. These are two very much reactionary bands coming out from both these teams. Wink banning out the diva. I think Vivacity banning out the Wu Yang here, while it is a very much a reactionary ban, you saw how much value Saint was getting with that Wu Yang in both the first and the third point, even though it was very minimized, that third point.
Yeah, I think it's just something you don't want to have to deal with, especially I think a map that has a lot of distance, and this is one of those supports that can really get a lot of value from not just a long distance, but honestly, Wuyong can get a lot of close distance value as well, whether that is with the... I can't remember what their actual wave is called, their wave ability. I wish I could remember. It's one of the few abilities that isn't, like, locked into my head somewhere, but that and then the title blast itself. Yeah, it's
is title something because every one of his abilities is title something.
It could just be tidal wave for all we know. We could be overthinking it. Oh, it might be. I'll find out later on. But like you said before, other ban being that Wu Young, I like it. The diva being in here makes sense as well because I brought up the fact of map 1 where it's like you're going to get to a point where maybe you just say straight up ban the diva so you can play Mauga. I don't know if this is the Mauga map by any stretch of the imagination because we still have Flashpoint and Push in the lineup as well, but we'll see. To be fair, I think maybe you try to force something else because to be fair, that diva was getting a lot of value for Vivacity, so I don't think it's really an exaggeration at all.
Oh, no, Axe was getting a lot of value. Second most elims that entire last map with 31. Second most damage in the entire lobby after Marcos right there, who I believe out damaged them by a little bit under 3,000 damage. Or a little bit, yeah, under 3,000 damage. I mean, you saw the value that Debo was really given there. It also allowed Marcos to play that Reaper a little bit more freely, even without the Zarya. Like I talked about going into that map, when we saw that Zarya Reaper come out, it was that old flavor of the month before Vendetta came out that you saw Zarya get paired up a lot was that Reaper. So that was probably a play they wanted to do there. But once it fell apart, the Diva ended up really working out a lot better. And I felt like you saw Marcos maybe take that first point to try to just get a good understanding of how to really play without the Zarya. And then points 2 and 3, you saw how much it changed there for them. But still, what's the response here now for Wink? They're bringing us here to Rialto. You look at this map as a little bit of a dive, a little bit of a poke map. Do you want to play the Winston? Do you want to play the Wrecking Ball? We already saw Eevee play the Wrecking Ball, so it is up their alley. But what do you get from outside of that? What does your hit scan play? We haven't seen Emrai. We didn't see Emrai at all that first point or first map at all. Do you see Widow? Do you see Ashe? Hanzo potentially, Cassidy starting to, you know, pop their head back up into the mainstay meta a little bit. There's options here for both these teams, especially for Wink. And without the Wu Yang, who do you fall back to? Do you go back over to a Juno? Do you play that Ana here? Because Ana, in my opinion, this might be one of the only maps that you could realistically say Ana makes a decent amount of sense on.
I think you could go down that route very easily. We have seen a lot of pairings with the Ana now beyond just the Brigitte. I think one of the big ones, even like in recent times, I've seen it paired up with the Wu Yang a lot of the time. I've seen pair-ups with the Lucio one. Is a little further back. That's a whole different ordeal that I don't think really works nowadays, but we'll see what is going to work here as we are headed off to Rialto for our second map, and I believe it's evening over here right now, which, to be fair, I think for most of these maps, evening light looks really good. I think it looks phenomenal. To be fair, Rialto is just a pretty map in general. I don't think that's an exaggeration whatsoever, is it?
I know it's a beautiful map. I'll agree with you right there. But what do we see coming out here now? Navilia showing us that Ana that I talked about. On the other side, though, look at what we are seeing now from Vivacity. This Hazard. Hazard has been a little bit of a conversation piece here as of late. Is it meta? Is it something out of the meta? I feel like we're starting to see a lot of teams mess around with it, try it out at certain points. But Hazard is really strong. You see Marcos also showing us the Emre for the first time here. On the other side, this is what I was waiting for. We saw there very late from Mikman going over to this Widowmaker on the last point. Didn't really mean anything for them, but I mean, at the moment, they have the time in spawn to really mess with us here, especially when you look at what they're currently showing us. But I mean, let's focus in on Vivacity. Vivacity, Brig, Kiri backline. You're starting to see that a little bit more, but Eevee now on to the ball. That's what we expected from them. But Mikman and Nadokado going to be playing this dual hit scan here for a brief moment before they eventually make their swap. Saint, though, I think they found something with this Mizuki. Ooh, we're seeing the Winton Hunter. You're going to love this. Winton. But Mikman now going over to a lot of swaps coming out. Oh my goodness. They're swapping too fast for me to really get a good idea of what they're trying to do here.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Mikman, already gone. Temper was just ready on that off angle. It's going to force them back already. But Axe does have to play a little carefully right now. That is a lot of damage going your way. And now Axe gone. This next corner right here could just be yours for free. Realistically, no one is really good enough or strong enough durability-wise to hang around.
Temper, we're going to be put to sleep for a brief moment. And oh, they just got jumped. Not a way you want to be jumped. Not trampoline jump. Like, no, they're never finding your body jump. And this is exactly the start you're looking for right now if you're Wink. You had such a rough end to last map. This is what you need here. Eevee on this Winston is going to be a big, I think, problem for Axe on this Hazard, as the bubble is just going to stop so much healing that could possibly get to them.
Yeah, Nadokado down early. You take that, or I should say Nadoko gets rid of Morlock down early. Better say, as Axe just has no sustainability left, is going to be burnt away. That is an extremely quick take coming through from Wink. Once again, getting off to a good start on a map like this.
And you're seeing the problems right now with Vivacity. Without the Diva, Axe is very much struggling, and there's the Malga coming back out for them. Remember, that was banned out map 1 by Wink to make sure we didn't see it. Morlock now going over to the Lucio instead, so Lucio, Kiri backline, that meta backline coming out for them here. But over 5 minutes on the time back, once they cap the point, already kind of casually carrying it through. You're going to have a Nano online here pretty soon, and an Overclock ready to go pretty quickly here for Wink. Those could be two ultimates that really just keep the steamroll going, but Temper, Marcos could have something to say about that with their own ultimates about to be online here.
Yeah, and Axe getting hit with the anti-rough situation to be in as Eevee has to be on the run. Big sleep comes through, by the way, there to kind of push them back even further. But Axe is trying to throw everything they have into the Winston. It's not working out too well, though, as you're getting consistent care from Navilia as well as Saint. And now Nano thrown in. It's going to get Mikman as they're going to start running in, hoping to find one. We'll be able to get rid of Morlock. Hopping over onto the Malga. Would love to burn and get a cage fight, but this cage fight might not even be too necessary. But I say that Marcos and Temper both finding plenty of value of their own. Mikman there has gotten rid of 2 this fight, hoping to find a third with Fern. Fern is separated away. You take the trade outs. It's down to the 1v1 here, but for the Winston, you have to try to finish off a Tracer, which honestly is never easy, especially as Axe is back.
Yeah, that 1v1 became a 3v1 very, very quickly there. Eevee does have Primal Rage to get themselves out of a sticky situation here, but they do not want to use it right now. Good plays, though, by Vivacity. They were able to really come back in, force that fight out there, got ultimates out from the other side, use their own ultimates, but you look at back over at Wing. Ultimates online for them, and Eevee now popping the Primal Rage, looking for some environmental kills, it looks like.
Yeah, you get a couple bodies low. Axe gets taken care of throughout this whole affair, though, because everyone else is just being shredded in the backline. And now, some stall coming through here from Temper. Really smart to just kind of commit to a little bit of stall instead. Get is in, though. Way backline now, by the way.
Yeah, and this could be a problem. It almost seems like Temper's trying to let their health just heal back up on their own. They're going to be out of this fight for the most part. However, you are coming into a lot of ultimates right now. If you're Vivacity, Wink, though, going to start off with Natakado's overclock.
Yep, and you're going to let a lot rip here to try to pull this one off, and honestly, I like it. You commit the sound barrier. You don't have really a use for it elsewise in terms of other ultimates over on the team, except, like, maybe for the M-Ray, but right now you see so many little bodies. Two for Temper with the pulse, and it is going to be the full wipe coming through here for Vivacity.
And the good start for Wink is slowly starting to fade away right now. Half that time bank is gone from their initial point cap. 2.5 minutes left to go, and now you're seeing more swaps. Evie going back over to the Wrecking Ball now, and you do have the Kiriko come back out here for Saint. First time we're, I think, seeing them play this a little bit here. No, we saw him play a little bit last map. My bad. But Nivelia does have another Nano online. Nickman not that far away from Duke, but on the other side, their own Kitsu, their own Cage, and not that far away from another override here. You need an early pick. Just get something going here right now if you're Wink, but Evie might be in a little bit too deep.
Maybe just a little bit, you know, I feel like that's maybe an exaggeration, but you have the Nano coming out onto Mickman once again, by the way. He's going to have to go with the Malga hop once again. We'd love to get a cage fight online, and such has been accomplished. Fern is stuck in there. Somehow hasn't gone down yet. Cleanse is timed perfectly as well, and that's going to be a minute 40 left on the clock. Another fight. Fortunately, that doesn't go their way.
That was just Axe saying, hey, nice Cage, mine's better, essentially, right there. Because they popped Cage, immediately got knocked out of the dupe right there. Axe popped their own down to make sure that it wasn't going to be a flyaway moment there for Mickman, who now goes over to the far instead. But he's now walking into both DPS ultimates here for Vivacity online. Again, Marcos and this override protocol is going to be very, very scary for anyone to deal with on the other side. But getting rid of Temper is a huge pick early on, but Marcos immediately responds with that override.
Yeah, Mickman, nice shot right there as well to take Marcos out of the air, and now you're set in beautiful territory. You have nobody that's coming back that can get back incredibly quickly. Temper's coming back with a pulse bomb, and you're still losing members of the team as Axe onto the point, wants to sustain for as long as possible. Such is not going to happen, though, and now Temper will have one more touch to set up, but is there going to be enough backup to take this one back?
I don't think Mickman noticed Temper right there. Marcos is going to fall, but Temper can get at least a little bit of a stall here. Not going to be enough to stop it. 2 minutes on the time bank right now.
Wow.
It's Natakado finally starts to come alive here a little bit with those 2 picks. That's going to at least buy a little bit of time here, but Axe frontlining immediately gets pushed back, but Mickman falling. However, you have the ultimates online here coming here for Wink. About to have all 5, but we've seen this once already this series, Hunter. Wink having a lot, while Vivacity doesn't. This is a point right now where they cannot make that same mistake that we saw on Control Center.
Yeah, pulse bomb thrown out there. Doesn't get any value from Temper, but still you're working up towards another cage fight. But you're going to have nearly 5 coming up here right now as Mickman Nivelia so close to having that barrage and Nano respectively for this one. But instead, it's a City Rush to get them forward and march on. And another early pick coming through from Natakado, but so many low bodies as well for the side of Wink, trying to capitalize over on the City Rush, and that they have done. But with a minute 15 left, they have a cage fight still staring them down.
Marcos gonna make the swap over to the Cassie. They want to try to shut down Mickman here, who's kind of been able to have some free range of the sky. Slep put out there, but now you start to see all the ultimates come out.
Yeah, mines come out in the middle of nowhere. Everything thrown in. The Nano on top of that, they are committing hard to this fight. Literally everything thrown away, and still Morlock has the sound barrier. And you lose that fight, and that's going to make this next one even more difficult.
Hunter, they did it again. Same mistake. 4 ultimates invested in that one fight there for Wink. Not even a single pick went their way, and you still leave the other side with a beat. I mean, you want to at least get those out right there. Yeah, you got rid of the Consumer Rush, but you still have Morlock's beat, and you have nothing coming up here now, coming into what is going to be the final fight no matter what. You need something to go your way really, really fast here if you're a Wink, and it needs to be a pick. However, the beat coming out.
Yeah, and there you go right there. Now you have the ball in the back. At this point, you're trying to keep as many people alive as possible, set up for recontention. That's all you need to keep yourself in this. And unfortunately, it's going to have to be Evie who's going to get that initial touch and try to keep this one going right now. You see Axe is in mega deep right now. Fern, though, maybe a little too deep for their own good. Axe is going to be able to push through. Stun is going to stop momentarily. Get booked away. They're not going to retouch.
the flashbang into the boop right there. Great play by Vivacity to make sure there was not a contest right there and an overtime wick to start. I mean, you saw it right there. It was starting to go Wink's way. They found one pick, then they found Axe. You needed a play like that right there to be able to stop the bleeding where you were able to stop it. Because without that, you might be looking at a full map completion coming out there from Wink, because they were in a good spot. Those 2 picks would have been able to kind of snowball into the last 3 members of Vivacity falling. But now you give yourself a win condition here in regulation for Vivacity. But you have to remember how fast of a start Wink got last round. You don't necessarily need to match it if you're Vivacity, but it certainly does help.
Oh, it helps a ton in a scenario like this. But one thing that we really didn't get to see, which I feel like we see a lot of maps like these, especially Rialto, is those first point holds, where they can be extremely deadly. The amount of times we have been seeing teams being held for multiple minutes on just that initial corner, it's really difficult to deal with. And with a ball, I don't know if it's going to have the same results, but to be fair, it's an excellent stall character. There's a lot of value that can have. Everybody on this team can realistically tank angles, and for something like the Mauga, it's a little tougher to, go deal with all 5 like that. But your biggest thing right now is trying to force a scenario where Temper and Marcos can continue to find value, like I feel like they have to a pretty fair extent.
Yeah, they really have. But right now, I'm kind of just seeing if Eevee just decides to try to pull people off the map into the canal right here, because they are definitely in spot to set up for it. Morlock, though, going up there, they'll be able to at least boop them. Eevee, though, just going to go pile drive in the boop there from Morlock to force them back here. So not necessarily the start you're looking for right there on that, but you still have everyone alive here right now if you are Wink. And it looks like you're just going to fall back and just give up a lot of space. Play this strong corner right here instead.
Yep, and again, you're focusing on the stall of this corner, and playing the ball over to the Mauga is not going to make it necessarily easy, but Mickman with a really good pick to put yourself in a really good position. Keep an eye on the off angle as well. Not going to make it very easy on Temper to find that value.
No, not at all. And right now, you see Natakata maybe a little bit too far up. Temper's going to be able to punish them out here, but now you need someone like Mickman to really pick up the pace, but Marcos gets... they can swim, right?
I don't think anyone in the Overwatch universe can technically swim, but... hey, you're turning back and forth. Temper and Mickman have already gotten like 2 or 3 apiece thus far in this fight. We'll see if it goes beyond that or not, as Mickman still has plenty of care, and Temper, all they can really do is kind of just hang around here and honestly have to regroup.
They're going to have to regroup here. Eevee, though, goes right back to stalling on Car. Marco's going to fall right there as Natakata comes back, but this is exactly what you're looking for here if you are Wing. Just these kind of fights where you're finding one pick to really slow down everything that Vivacity wants to do, and you see Vivacity getting set up, waiting to make a lot of these moves. Temper going straight to card, allowing time for Axe and the rest of their team to get set up, especially as they wait for Marcos now to come back on the Reaper.
Yep, and I like that. Able to burn through things a lot more easily, kind of hang around the card as well, be a big presence. Axe also helping kill Navilia is going to give you plenty of progress, and honestly, with Eevee down as well, I don't think touching this point again is even realistic. I think you're already setting up for second. Right now, I'm putting 3 on this car right now because I know Eevee can touch if given the slightest opportunity.
And 3 are on the cart right now. Eevee tries to get out. Axe gonna stop him there for a brief moment, but they understand that they can no longer do that. So 4.5 minutes here for Vivacity. Again, you didn't have to match what Wink got last round, but 4.5 minutes is still a pretty good job here for them. You have brought to come up with all 5 of your ultimates here if you are Wink. Same thing could be said for Vivacity outside of Marcos, who made that swap to the Reaper here late. But Temper, again, finding one.
Yeah, says he's in a really good territory. In 2 for Mickman. Been given that nano pretty much every single time thus far. It's been working out wonderfully, as Mickman will eventually be taken out of the sky from the Reaper nonetheless. But at the very least, you kind of advantage. But unfortunately, the spawns are just much closer for Vivacity.
Yeah, they just are at the moment. They'll slowly fall back into the Wink's kind of space right now. Cage, though, gonna just trap Eevee.
Yeah, and honestly, you don't hate this at the end of the day. You actually even take a trade there. You use the minefield in there as well. And to be fair, again, you're loving this if you're Vivacity. You are in such beautiful territory right now where if you win this fight, I mean, you have to feel brimming with confidence.
Oh yeah, you'll be able to cap this second point and have a large, healthy time back, not even to complete the entirety of the map. You need a big play here, though, from someone on the side of Wink. Eevee goes in and causes a little bit of disruption. Beat, though, out from Morlock to get everything going here for Vivacity.
Yeah, 100% so. Natakata has to run for it in that moment. Navilia, the first one to go down, and Natakata just isn't able to clutch anything up. So much has been put in. And still, they're finding ways to hang around here. Death Blossom eventually used as well to sustain through this. Mikmin is still hanging in here as well, but there's no support sitting by. Natakata, the last one to get a little bit of stall, but not even that, as finished off. Vivacity, realistically, one more big fight away from ending this thing.
4 minutes to get 72 meters, Hunter. This is, like you said, one more fight is all they need. Temper has his pulse bomb online. Eevee now make the swap over to the Sigma instead here. Just something to try to slow down something. Pulse bomb, though, coming out. Not going to be able to find the stick this time. That would have been a huge target, as it looked like they went after Navilia there. That would have been something to get rid of there very early on. Accretion will hit on the Axe, but right now you need the Sigma to work very, very well for Wink, or else this map could already be over.
Yep. Mikmin eventually taken out. Big anti came through there from Navilia, and now we're able to force a lot of bodies back. Mikmin, nice direction right over there. Managed to get rid of 2. Takes themselves out with a little bit of help, but 3.5 minutes on the clock. Still a lot remaining, as no swaps quite yet.
One fight at a time. That's what Wink needs to do here. Just take it one fight at a time. However, you cannot necessarily play as far up right now as you really are, especially if you're someone like Navilia. Natakata, yeah, you can play that far up, especially if you have Eevee, but not your Ana. You can really not afford to lose your Ana here very early on. Those bio nades are going to be something very, very important, and especially a sleep on someone like Axe is going to be very, very important to how you play a lot of these fights.
Yeah, definitely. You're hoping to set up Mikmin coming up here right now. That Nano is available once more to hand it over, but you get a big pick here. But I don't know, it's a bit of an awkward trade. Everything thrown directly in the face of Axe, who will eventually go down, but still, it's trade central as Mikmin is doing their darndest to hang around here and stay alive. Natakata, though, gonna clean up some bodies to again stem the bleeding.
Fight 2 of probably 5 coming up here, if I have to take a guess of how many Wink will need to be able to hold on to. Yeah, you used 2 ultimates in that last fight, but you still have 3 coming up online right now. The other side gonna have 2 as well. So you're trying to match them here out throughout the rest of this map right now if you are Wink. Axe, though, sneaking up the staircase right now as you're starting to see a little bit of attention come out. Nice accretion there by Eevee to at least catch out Marcos, who's still just lurking around that back line.
Yep, recall going to be used right here. Nano thrown into Natakata to find some value, and overclock's going to be used in full by both these sides right here. Axe is fully cut off away, is forced back all the way. Slight overextension, but honestly, it's another fight won as Axe is hiding away. But unfortunately, Mikmin apparently is the king of hide and go seek.
2 for none right there, though, in Ultimacy. Now you only have your Flux online at the moment here for Wink. You look over the other side. I think Vivacity completely understands what they have to do here. They can just bank ultimates, and that's what they're doing. They're about to have all 5 ultimates ready to go. Mikmin could build up to another barrage here. Saint could build up to a Kitsune Rush, and that's exactly what you need right now, but you look at the play coming out here. It's just the same thing they did last time. 3 members going up the stairs where you're going to have what looks like to be Temper getting set up.
Yep, multiple bodies thrown into that right there. Not realistically going to get rid of anybody, which makes this rough. More bodies forced back, and now they're going to go all in thinking that they can end this thing right here now. And to be fair, I think they're in a really good territory to be able to do so. Mikmin goes down, but the problem is, as Temper gets some teabags in, they don't push the card at all.
No, they didn't. They're now going to allow an opportunity here for Wink to come back out. Eevee, I imagine, not going to stay on this Stigma, go back over maybe to the ball, just get back out quickly, but no, they're not. Mikmin and now Saint. Going to be your 2 you're looking at.
Oh, no.
Out from Temper early on. Going to be able to find Mikmin. No barrage.
Yeah, and now no touch available either. They get held in. There's nothing they can do. Vivacity takes another one. Now we bring it over to match point. This is insane, isn't it? Because to be fair, this is incredibly back and forth. It is such a good fight coming in from Wink. But the end of these fights, like that last one, where they just don't have the advantage whatsoever in ult economy, and it comes back to bite them.
It really does. And Hunter, I mean, when you look at the stats for this map, you're really going to say, how did Vivacity end up winning this one here? Because Wink is leading in basically everything, maybe outside healing, where Fern did 15,000 healing by themselves that map there. An insane amount while adding on 13 elims. But you look at the stats here. I mean, DPS line for Wink, Mikmin, and Natakata combined for over 50 elims, 55 combined, while the other side only combined for 48. So again, 7 more elims here and there. What's the main difference? Well, that's a fight, essentially. But Wink, this looked like a much better map for them. They got off to such a good start. And defense wasn't bad for them. They kind of just let it slip through their hands there on the second point. A little bit over aggressive play. I think Eevee stuck on the ball a little bit too long because you start to see how well that Sigma really started to work there on those final couple fights. but you just needed to make that swap a little bit sooner. It feels like they were maybe just too dependent on the wrecking ball on the defensive side. Because, like you said, it's a good good stall tank, but you need to have a little bit more damage. You need to have a little bit more sustain with your tank, especially on the defense side. You can get away with the ball on the offense side as come in, cause chaos, roll out, and just reset and do it all again. You can't necessarily do that on the defensive side because you're giving up maybe a little bit too much space unless your DPS line is finding kill after kill very early on, which granted, Mickman and Natakata were able to do that a lot that last map, especially that last round a little bit, but it was those moments when they weren't. That's where you really start to see Vivacity kind of be able to pull away a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So hopefully we'll see some kind of adjustment because Wink, again, is making this a close affair, but it is really a symptom of starting strong and not being able to follow up on that. We'll see, though. First ban out, the Lucio taken out of the equation, which I think is pretty interesting. All things considered, I think it pairs up really well with something like the Mauga, but you are also going on to Numbani where I think outside of maybe third point, I don't know how much value the Mauga inherently would get, but nonetheless, they've been using Lucio a lot. Lucio has a lot of inherent value. It's a solid pick.
It's a solid ban, but you have to remember they bring us to Numbani. And Hunter, what do we always talk about Numbani being? We talk about being a dive map. You have to remember what tank they can't ban because they banned it out last map, the Diva. I feel like you're just going to see Axe go straight back over to that Diva, which dominated Wink on that first map of Lijiang Tower, especially on points 2 and 3, where he saw throughout the majority of them. This is a very interesting map selection, but the Lucio is not necessarily the worst tank or support to get rid of. It's like, actually, I think it's a really good ban. It's a very safe ban. You really now force Vivacity to play the Juno, play something else. You do not have that speed now unless you really focus in on that Juno.
Yeah, definitely so. So it's going to make things a little bit more difficult. You can definitely pair up the Juno. Nothing stops you from doing that. There's still a really high level of effectiveness going down that route. Obviously, you don't have the quality of the sound barrier, which is honestly, I think, one of the biggest selling points between the two. But we'll see what the route goes down. It could be a completely different switch up. You could go back to Axe running the Diva instead, and I think you can still find a lot of inherent value that way. Now, as to whether they do or don't, maybe depends on what we're seeing as our other ban, as we'll take a look momentarily as it has been selected. Again, just waiting to see if there's any swaps, and it looks like such will not be the case.
I like this ban coming out here from Vivacity. Get rid of the Winston here. You're either going to force that mirror or force the Wrecking Ball to come out here from Eevee. And I think at this point, if you're Vivacity, you are completely fine dealing with that Wrecking Ball. Eevee has really not been able to find the value consistently. We've seen good moments from them so far this series on the Wrecking Ball, but it hasn't been consistent enough to get them over that hump just yet. However, backs against the wall right now for Wink. Are we going to see any little bit of different drastic plays come out for them? Or are we going to still see them be this composed team that we've seen them so far throughout this series? Because, again, this is a team right now that's not gone off to the best start this season. They need to bounce back now, at least in this series, to keep some hopes alive.
That's what we're hoping for. Get our third and potential map here. Good to go for Numbani. As we're going to see, for the time being, Vivacity going to be starting out over on the defense. Hoping, I imagine, to try to shut Wink down as fast as humanly possible. But again, we see the kind of team that Wink is. They get off to a really hot start. And to be fair, Numbani is a map where getting off to a hot start is really convenient. I think first and third point are extremely hard to tank in their own right. Second to its own extent. But honestly, that's a bit of a defender's paradise even in 2026. But we should kind of talk about what we're seeing on the docket right now, because despite what I said earlier, the Mauga is still in rotation.
Yeah, and despite what I said, I thought we would see Axe play the Diva the entirety of this map. They're sticking with Mauga, at least on the defensive side, which, again, very sustainable tank, one that you would very much like to see on your team in a defensive situation. Mauga is definitely that kind of tank. Outside that, no big shocks, other than maybe Fern going over to this Baptiste, a little bit more damage, a little bit more sustainable, a little bit more burst healing from them. Saint showing us a Mizuki again. It seems like they really want to make Mizuki work here. Mickman as well, showing us something a little bit different. Haven't seen the Genji from them all night long. We're seeing this here now. Eevee, though, sticking with this Wrecking Ball. And like I said, I feel like we did not see the Wrecking Ball ban come out here from Vivacity because they are completely fine dealing with it.
Yeah, I agree with there. Big anti onto Axe is going to force him back a little bit. Is forced into the room, by the way. Eventually he's going to get rid of one. Despite being chained down, still has all the sustain in the world. Is going to be able to live through every single little bit of it. And to be fair, that's just going to dump all charge for Axe.
And it really is. And without your honor there, it's going to slow down a lot here for this wing squad. You're seeing them try to get something going here. Fern, though, barely stays alive. Uses that regenerative burst. They keep themselves up and kicking here. That would have been a great assassination there from Eevee. Just not able to find it. Now you have everyone back here for Wing. This is the moment where you just need to get going.
Yeah, that's some really good tech being used there, by the way, as Eevee Force back has plenty to still work with, but we're back to an even playing field. But eventually, both tanks extremely low, access to run all the way around just to grab the Mega Health Pack, just to make sure there's a little bit of care sitting by. But now you put bodies over on the point. You're hoping to maybe get one ticking here, but you see they end up dislocating themselves a little bit. Fern separated away, thrown into the air. Immortality Field has to be used, but Fern is now a sitting duck. Will be taken care of as Temper has the pulse arm ready to go. Not going to be needed as Eevee is taken out. Unfortunately, you just don't have the ultra sustainability to hang in this one if you're Wink.
You just don't, and you were so close right there to just getting something going. You could have really got, I think, at least one tick right there if you threw one more person on that point throughout the entirety of it. But now, look at the ultimates coming online. All 5 up online for Vivacity. Only Navilia kind of lagging behind on their ultimate here for Wink, but still, you're in a good opportunity. You could really just try to force a fight here on point, especially with that Sanctuary coming on here from St. Tex. You know that that's going to stop a lot of damage from coming in and would actually force everyone into a very close spot. You might see Eevee really mine either the cage or that Sanctuary comes out, just try to force oh wow, the Sanctuary comes out early.
Ooh. Yeah, and this is a lot being thrown in. Honestly, I don't mind it whatsoever. Mine thrown in as well. Marcos gets rid of a couple right now, but unfortunately, this is still an even playing field. We're down to the pure 2v2. Unfortunately, I don't favor my chances against the Mauga.
And no, and at this point, I feel like you're seeing Eevee roll back to point. I almost thought we would see a little bit of a swap from them. Fern now going over to the Mizuki, while Saint goes right back over to the Kiriko instead. Nanoblade could be something we see come up here, but Navilia needs to build up to. You still have that overclock online from Nadakato, who's been showing us a lot here, but you need something to go your way here right now if you're Wink, or else this series might be as good as done.
Yeah, 100%. So you have the Nano Blade about to be ready online as well. I think they're going to go for it. Every Nano has gone to Mickman thus far, and they're going to go for it right here. You go in. Temper has just nowhere to go, as I should say, Axe has nowhere to go. Still, sustains through so much damage, as eventually just Morlock and Marcos hanging around. They'll be taken care of, as, yeah, Marcos is just going to have only 1 health remaining. 3 over on the point. No realistic retouch available, as they will be able to take away the first point. Takes a lot, but it's worth it.
It takes a lot. It takes almost that entire time bank, but you now give yourself a win condition here if you are Wink, and you just needed something. You needed something, like I said, to go your way. Mickman getting off of that now, getting off the Genji, going back over to the Pharah. You look over at the other side, no good hit scan to really deal with them. That's why they immediately swap right back over to it, and I like it. It's either going to force Marcos to get off of this Reaper or force something somewhere else, but hey, you know, if Morlock can just hit a couple kunais to the dome, it doesn't necessarily matter. You don't need a hit scan.
No, you certainly don't. Axe pulled down momentarily. It's going to be able to break right through, despite being hit with the being hit with the hook. That cleanse is going to help so much. Now, this corner, unfortunately, this might be one of the worst corners to have to play into a Mauga, but Morlock getting a pick certainly makes it a little bit easier for Axe to do their thing.
Morlock is just, you know, your hit scan on the support line at this point. Already able to find 2 out here pretty early on, and Temper going to be able to shut down Saint. This is a moment right now where if you're Wink, you just need to completely fall back, regroup, set everything back up. Okay, that's a little bit of an Eagle Pulse Bomb coming out there from Temper. Not finding anyone. Again, Pulse Bomb, though, could be very strong in a lot of situations, especially sticking on someone like Mickman, like Navilia, like Nadakato. You force out either that Suzu or you get a kill with it.
Yep, Axe being given literally everything right there. It's not going to matter a ton, though, as you see. Temper gets a little bit of a jump scare right there from Nadakato, but with Mickman down, you lose a lot of your inherent value. You got to back out a little bit, take your quick regroup.
Another quick huge anti right there. Marcos, though, going to be able to stay alive. You have Death Blossom, Kitsune Rush online here for Vivacity. And you look over at Wink, you have Kitsune, you have Minefields. You're in a good spot. Mines or Kitsune coming out from Sane, and that's one they're going to want back.
Yeah, unfortunately so. Axe gets another one right there, as, to be fair, they still get value out of it. They force it back, but it's really Sane who just doesn't get the value you're looking for. And now you're starting to question, is this ball comp going to be the answer?
I mean, I think we've been asking that question this entire series. Mickman now going over to the Reaper instead. Again, I think it's a little bit better, especially in this Mauga, which has just been finding so much value. Mine and Nano online here. Mine's out from Eevee. Going to be able to buy some space, and that's exactly who you need to shut down first here.
Yeah, Axe so low as Death Blossom comes through. It catches onto one, and everyone just so desperately low. Saint the only one alive, but even that won't last much longer. With 40% on the board, it's not looking pretty.
And EV sticking with this Wrecking Ball here. Granted, you did get 3 ultimates out from the other side at the cost of 2 right there for Wink, but you have nothing online now. EV now going over to the Zarya instead. It's a little bit better than the Wrecking Ball, but is a little bit too late here. Time will tell. Hell, we might be figuring that out here in about the next 20 seconds.
Yeah, oh, it's a big stick, but also a bigger cleanse, I believe, that comes through. Actually, I don't know how. Oh, we'll talk about it later. But you see them hanging around as over on that Zarya, it already pays its dividends. You get rid of Axe, and that's your biggest tool to winning literally any fight. But still plenty of care going on up top. Marcos is still getting a little bit more. Has some stall over on the point as eventually everyone just going to take their deaths on it right here. Marcos and Temper doing a really good job of keeping this fight going. Eventually, it will have to come to its natural end. But still, you have to win another fight, maybe even 2, to pull this one back completely.
It's going to be about another fight you need. However, Wink's in a good spot right here. Death Blossom overclock online for them. Nothing ready to go on the other side here. You cannot afford to lose Mikman or Nanakato early on in this fight because those are your 2 win conditions right there. Them just staying alive to use their ultimates. There's nothing on the side of Vivacity here, but you cannot allow them to do what they're doing right now of rotating behind you.
Yep, 100%. Axe already finds really good inherent value. Not a whole lot online. Mikman is going to have this Death Blossom ready to go, though. Needs to pull at the right time. Finds the moment. Is going to be able to get rid of Axe, which is the biggest contender you were hoping for right here. Temper's hanging around as Fern is going to be able to win the 1v1, which is massive. Both supports still hanging around. Temper is in there. You see Nvidia come back over on the cat just to provide a little bit of a help. Raiders Nanakato eventually going to be forced out here. It's just Eevee over on the point, but still, that might be enough to conquer it all. That they will, and with a minute and a half, they somehow will keep this going.
Somehow, some way, right now, you do not care if you're a Wink. You're getting into 3rd point push, which is a very difficult push to go through. It's a lot longer than a lot of people look at here, but it's also just a very, very long walk from spawn when you die here. Granted, you will have 2 ultimates online here very soon if you are Wink, but you're going to start rotating right now into all the ultimates here for Vivacity. You already see the Pulse Ball online, not that far away from Akitsu, Death Blossom, and another Sanctuary.
100%. Big cleanse in. Big, oh my god, Temper gets 2, but Nanakato gets 3 with the grab, and it's just Axe hanging about. Eventually, gonna be cleared out here, at least I imagine, as they are stalling out just momentarily. And with 45 seconds left, no ultimates on the table, Temper makes the swap to the Bastion.
2 ultimates gone there from Vivacity, and 2 ultimates there from Wink as well. But Navilia coming back out on the cat here a little bit, but you talk about it. This Bastion coming out here now from Temper. We talked about it a lot last season, Hunter, that bubble popper composition, and right now you see Axe, you see Temper, they are ready to start popping some bubbles.
Yep, Death Blossom here ready to go as well. In fact, you're going to have so much ready to go. You could easily just pull it with Axe and Marcos to just find the follow-up that you need to burn it down. But already, it's rough. Yeah, it's rough. They're losing bodies. They're getting cleared out. Marcos has no help sitting by. Fern, all they can do is just hang over in the back. And now, they're so close to finishing this one off. It's just Axe trying to get back in time. Marcos a little bit more stall. But somehow, some way, they go from zeros to heroes and finish the map.
You have to remember, it took them 40 seconds on that first point to really figure out how to cap that one there. Took them to swap over to the Zarya to figure something out on the second point, and then they never looked back. Like I said, we were going to figure out if it was a little bit too late when Eevee made that swap to the Zarya. I gave it 20 seconds because that's how much time there was left. Well, we saw a lot more than 20 seconds right there. So the return on investment right there is huge for Eevee and the entirety of Wink. And that kind of performance right there, Hunter, you really have to look at it as this is a moment. This is something that turns around this season. Even if they don't end up winning this series or potentially this map, you are able to really come back from being essentially just spawn camped for about 2.5 minutes there to completing this map. That's something that gives you so much momentum, and your mentals right now have to be feeling incredible, have to be as high as they've been maybe this entire series here. But you immediately see Eevee go right back over to the ball, and this is something where I just don't like it here. Unless we've shown, well, like I said, Eevee's shown us this Wrecking Ball a lot throughout the night. It's looked good, but it hasn't looked good up against Axe, and that's been one big thing. I really like the Zarya we saw from them. I hope they make the swap a little bit sooner if they need to.
Yeah, I hope so. I think this could be a realistic thing of, hey, we try it first. If it doesn't work, maybe go back over towards the Zarya. It could be really good. We saw how good it was for that matter. Especially if this is a quick, like, one-fight thing, I think you should immediately swap.
Yeah, and you see Eevee already just trying to at least get some idea where they are. McMahon, maybe going a little bit too far in there, buddy. Able to get out, and you just see Axe go charging straight through up to the high ground.
Yeah, Axe is a little separated. Doesn't have all the power in the world here. Eventually gonna have to back out, take a very quick regroup over here instead. Temper facing a little bit of trouble as well. Would love to not have to use all those delicious cooldowns as Mikmin, maybe wishing had theirs online, has already been taken care of. Axe being hit with the NT is not going to do a whole lot at the end of the day as Nivelia, poor Nivelia, gets stomped on, still has some care as Axe is way in the back, but when you're a Mauga, you do not care where you're at. Already about to have their second tick online, and the third and final one likely not too far behind.
Yeah, I mean, you could see Eevee try to come back in and stall, but they're just going to play for this corner instead, much like we saw Vivacity do last time around here. But losing Saint is not how you wanted to get this one started. Eevee now going in. And this almost just seems like they're kind of looking to die here as Mikmin falls, Nanokata falls, and then there's eventually Eevee. So if you're going to make some swaps right now, if you're Wink, this is the moment to do it. Do not give up too much space. Yes, you have ultimates coming online, but you might want to make the swaps now, and Eevee makes the swap now. Like I said, they need to make that swap a little bit earlier, and they do it at the first chance they get here. I like this form. We saw what this Zarya was able to do against Axe's Mauga last round. I think you saw a lot more synergy with this team. However, now because of that, you're kind of lagging behind in that ult charge. Axe is going to have a cage, Morlock going to have a orbital ray online, but you immediately just find a first fight win here, essentially.
Yeah, Axe goes in, tries to find value like previously, and it just does not happen. And now you're coming back over to your Nano and your Death Blossom. Mikmin has all the power in the world, but you are stacking ultimates right now for Vivacity. Wisely so.
And this has been something we've seen them do all series long. Just stacking up ultimates, have 3, 4, even 5 ready to go. Use them sparingly as well. They know when to use them, and they know when to not use them.
Yeah, Death Blossom being thrown in, finds the necessary one, and in fact, it gets the follow-up as well. Morlock accepts fate, goes down as Temper is still hanging about. Would love to get out of here live, but about to get jump-scared by Mikmin, who gets their one back here. But still 4 minutes on the clock, plenty of ults available as they're about to have the full house ready.
Plenty of ults online coming up here for Vivacity. You got 2 out last time, maybe the 2 scariest ones there. But Mikmin starting to apply some pressure in that back line, going to be able to get out.
Yeah, and it's going to be a lot thrown in. In fact, that's 4 ultimates thrown in to win this fight, and everyone needs to just throw their bodies on, take their deaths, but these are going to be some late deaths coming through as Saint is going to get completely left alone. Oh, no.
And they're not going to be able to get back out here and stall this one. That's going to be a map or a point cap here. No, it would be almost suicide for them to try to get back out here.
Well, that they haven't, yeah. Immediately backs
Mikmin
out.
tried. Yeah, Mikmin tried. I'll give him credit there. Axe, though, might need to get out with their own life here, and they're going to be able to do that. But 4.5 minutes, over 4.5 minutes now for Vivacity to get this map completed here. Pulse bomb coming out there from Temper. Won't find anything but the staircase as Nivelia doing a really good job just dodging out of it right there. But Eevee now coming up to this grab here. You need to use these ultimates sparingly here again if you are Wink. That's one thing that kind of killed you last time around. You invested 2 ultimates into both fights before you even saw an ultimate come up from the other side. And losing Nanokata is not the best.
No, and this is becoming not pretty very quickly now. You let that second one snowball away, and now you're one bad fight away from having to play for 4 minutes for a draw.
Yeah, that's not fun. Let's just put it like that.
Yeah, but either way, bodies start making their way out. Mikmin is there for the initial touch right now as still a Graviton Surge is ready to go. You would love to hold on to it if at all possible, but if you get into a desperate situation, you might be forced to go down that route. And there goes Axe super deep right now, wants to force away. Grab gets thrown in. I don't know what it realistically gets here as you take the weird trade out. Eevee still being alive, though, puts you in such a phenomenal position where, unfortunately, Vivacity have to do a soul-free group.
I mean, the grab... Okay, bye, Morlock. The grab basically just got rid of Fern. That's all it really did there. And granted, you would like it to find a little bit more, but getting rid of the Kiriko is always not a bad thing. However, we're back in the same situation where we were last point. You're seeing already Vivacity coming up to all 5 of their ultimates. Marco's really the only one lagging behind. 3 ultimates going to be online here for Wink. And we're back in that same thing what I was talking about last map. Just one fight at a time here. That's what they need to do. They just need to try to whittle down this time bank as much as they possibly can here, seeing that the golden box of victory and the map completion is right there.
Yeah, Nickman with the excellent kill over on to Marcus so well to put them in a good position. Temper's hanging around as well, would love to get out. And remember, while you would love to full stop them, all you have to do is put that thing under a minute to give yourself a chance at winning this map.
And look at that, you get rid of Axe. The back cap! The back cap! More like try the back cap! They don't notice! They don't notice! They don't notice!
Wait, they don't know! Wait, they don't know! Wait, they actually don't know!
No! No! Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Oh, it was looking so good! It was looking so good! And it falls apart!
No way, dude.
Oh, I wish I was recording.
Man, I'm so happy that, I mean, I'm not happy it happened. I'm happy it's on clip, but like, that's rough. That is one of the more egregious ones I've casted in my lifetime. Oh man.
Hunter, remember what I said there? Was I the only one that saw that?
Yeah, you were the only one who saw it at first, yeah. Oh my god,
goodness.
that's...
remember what I was talking about? How Wink, even with the struggles they had, they're attacking around, maybe had the best mentals. And maybe that was a point of the season where everything kind of turned around for them.
Yeah, I remember that.
Forget what I said. That's just devastating.
Yeah, there's unfortunately not a whole lot to say to that point. That's the really unfortunate section we kind of have to deal with here. But it's not over yet. 2.5 minutes to potentially hold here. You go over to the Zarya immediately instead. So we'll see what happens. It's still holdable. You saw what they could do before. They just have to replicate it here.
Yeah. 2.5 minutes, though. Very, very difficult. They didn't even do this last time around. They really lost it in a fight. You have to play very, very smart here. And Eevee coming on this Zarya is the right thing to do. It's the right thing, maybe the only thing to do here.
Yeah, full cooldowns already used here from Eevee, who's in a bit of a rough scenario. They're able to run down, and yeah, that is really rough. Temper gets one, though. Unfortunately, it's not going to do a lot in the grand scheme of things. As Access, that's a fun glitch, as Access is just going to go in, try to find their one. Such willing to happen, and that's one down, but still a few more to go.
I mean, Navili got a nice sleep there on the Temper. However, Eevee woke them up almost immediately. However, they still find the kill right there. But you look at the time bank, 40 seconds gone. That's what you're looking at here right now. One more fight probably puts you into that final fight territory. Navilia will have Nano online here very soon. So you're in a spot right now where if you're Wink, you're feeling comfortable. You are feeling good. However, you cannot afford to have someone die here first, and Navilia is that one person you're going to be looking at here. But Saints, no!
Yeah, and that could be very much the beginning of the end right here. Burning Axe is the only way you have any chance of doing it. Unfortunately, those chances have gone to low, to abysmally small, as Navili is hanging around. They've run out of bodies. They've run out of resources. Eevee is not even going to get a retouch here. And as that will be it, that will settle your series right then and there. Vivacity take the 3-0. Who knows what could have been if not for the Charlie Niner, but we're here now, and Vivacity will improve to 6-1. Honestly, at this point, I think it's fair to say they could be looking playoff ready.
Yeah, they could be looking playoff ready. I think this is a team that has firmly set themselves up for playoffs. However, Hunter, I'll talk about here in a moment what their remaining schedule looks like, because it's definitely one that will show us if they are truly playoff ready. But Vivacity wins here tonight. Just great plays from them. They've been one of the most consistent teams that we've been able to see here week after week after week. Because granted, we've been able to cast them at least once every week so far this season, as they're one of the only teams that's actually relatively kept up with the amount of games they're supposed to have played by this point, which is a rare thing this season, as a lot of games have been rescheduled. And granted, we understand that's because of collegiate and a lot of other outside factors. But this is their 7th game. I think there's only maybe a couple other teams that have played more than 5. However, let me say it now. While next game, Fallen Destiny, is probably one that is winnable for them, put them at 7-1, then you get into the gauntlet of their season. Team Z, Dilducks, The Fallen, Extinction Zero, Amplify, Meow Academy, and then they end it with Ex Oblivione. That's a really, really rough schedule. A really tough schedule here. But I think right now you're building that confidence up to really be able to say, hey, we can go out and beat any of these other teams. And that's exactly what this Vivacity squad needs. If they can realistically beat 3 of those teams that I talked about there, they're probably in playoffs. They probably are in playoffs, because I think it was 9 wins last season, or was it 8 wins last season that was that cutoff line for playoffs?
Yeah, I think it ended up being 9, because there ended up being, I think there was a tie for like 8 and 7 that went somebody's way and not the other. So 9, I feel like, is like the confident cutoff point, is what I would say in a scenario like this. But honestly, you're grateful right now if you're Vivacity still with the progress you've managed to have with what you've been able to do, even though you have some tough games moving forward. It's really important to note how big it is to go in 6-1 to those important games. You're going to be treated like a proper threat. Like, nobody wants to run into you if they don't have to. But we'll see how those go down. Obviously, we'll have more progress over as the weeks go by. I do want to take a quick look at these other games that happened tonight also. Finished already. It looks like they have, and it looks like it went the expected way. Dilducks beat Fallen Destiny 3-0. Mal Academy beats Elemental Garden 3-0, and Amplify beats Interesting Pivot 3-1. So yeah, that's interesting. But to be fair, those are the expected results. We'll see where things go from here, as it's still going to be a really interesting season. As now there's only 2 undefeated teams remaining.
Yeah, and I mean one thing here on what we saw here tonight from Wink. This is, again, a team that so close. Every map was very, very close. Let's just say that. It was one or two fight go their way on any of these maps, and they probably end up winning it. We could be talking about a 3-0 in favor of them here. They do have 3 very winnable games in their next 3 games. Interesting Pivot, Iliad Armaments, and Hive Mind are their next 3 games. That could really be a moment right here where you see this team right the ship. However, after that, you have Dilducks, The Fallen, Extinction Zero, Amplify, and Meow Academy. So you still have a couple or a decent amount of rough games ahead of them, or tough games ahead of them. But this is a team that has the talent to be able to punch up against some of those teams right there. Find an upset or 2, because once they get everything put together, this should be one of the scarier teams around that middle of the pack, which is the playoffs.
Yeah, like it's not gonna be easy whatsoever, but you put yourself in such a good position. You have to be happy with what you are accomplishing here. So we'll see what comes to form. But either way, I think that's a very entertaining way to finish out Faceit League here. But of course, we want to thank y'all for coming up here. That was a big thank you for the raid as well. Always love to see it. That's it tonight for Faceit. Dex, that's the end of the night for you as well. However, after the break, I will be coming back. There is the Central Americana that is happening here today. It's a late affair to get the first day started for qualifiers, but hey, I'm going to truck through it. I'm going to find a way. So we'll be on break for just a few minutes. When we come back, I'll be there with some coverage for those games. But if that's your night with us, thank y'all for being here. Have yourselves a fantastic night, and we'll see you next time for some more Faceit League action. Take care.